Today we're going to be checking out God of War Ragnarok on the ROG Ally X. We're going to put it through its paces, going through all the different settings, test out the FSR that's natively in this game, just to see how far we can push this little handheld device. And without any further delay, let's start. Starting things off, we're going to be at full resolution with no scaling, no frame generation, and using TAA. And we'll start things off at low setting. Right off the bat, things look awesome. However, we are inside and we're only getting just a little over 40 frames per second, but this feels like a very smooth, nice 40 frames per second. And again, I can't get over how good this looks on this screen. Being able to play this at native 1080p with no FSR or any scaling going on and getting a nice 40 plus frames per second is a really nice playthrough. However, we're gonna definitely need to jump outside. Jumping outside, we're losing almost 10 frames per second. It keeps trying to jump into the high 30s, but it really feels like it's at 32-ish frames per second, a little bit jumping below 30, but honestly doesn't feel like it. This is like a pretty solid above 30 frames per second, even out in the open world. And every once in a while jumping all the way to 40 frames per second, even with all of this going on and no FSR, which is really freaking good to see. I mean, come on. Getting a full 1080p, no frame generation, none of this woohoo waha going on. Look at this. That's such an incredible ordeal to be able to have. And this is really where the ROG Ally shines. Like, unfortunately, the Steam Deck in 2024, almost in 2025, is lacking with games like this one. Still very playable. I have another video showcasing how playable it is, largely due to the incredible technology of FSR. However, we're gonna jump on FSR on this device, and then we're really gonna see how much we can push this. But if you're really against all of those types of things, you can absolutely play this at native 1080p, 30 plus frames per second. It's looking awesome. Just for fun, let's jump up to medium settings, still at 1080p, and see if we can maintain a 30 frames per second. Let's give it a second to load everything up. Doesn't look like this is gonna happen. It dropped like 10 frames per second going from low to medium. Yeah, we're not gonna get this, guys. If you were inside, I'm sure this would still be at 30 frames per second, but we're getting low 20s at medium. So in reality, if you wanna play at that native 1080p, you're gonna be looking at staying locked in at low settings. But guess what? Turning on FSR 3.1 and setting it to quality, not changing anything else, is not doing as much as I thought it would do. It's literally the same, 22, 24 frames per second. Did something not get turned on? That's so interesting. It jumped down to 720p being upscaled using FSR 3.1, and we really didn't gain any performance there, which is very surprising. 22 to 25 frames per second. I honestly am baffled. I would have thought for sure that that was going to give us at least 30 frames per second switching to that. Very interesting. So yeah, this isn't good either. It looks like we're going to have to go from quality to balance. This better do something for us. Everything's the same, medium, FSR 3.1, but now we're set to balance. That made a huge difference. What's the deal with that other one? Quality should have helped us out a bit, because now we're jumping to the low 40s. Medium settings, FSR 3.1 at balance is giving us mid to high 40s. Every once in a while dumping down into the 30s, but it does look nice. Right there, it's going down to 20, 24, 27. It's kind of all over the place right now. 20, 25. What is happening? Oh. That's so weird. It just dumped all the way back down to 20, 23, 24, 22. I mean, that's 2 frames per second more than when it was at full HD. And now we're not even at HD being upscaled. Doesn't even make sense. So dumping all the way down to performance, which now it's at 536p. I mean, we're way down there. And it's still struggle busing. We're not even getting 30 frames per second. And although, yes, this does look decent, it's getting worse frame rates than TAA at full 1080p. So like, why would we do this? Just for fun, let's turn on frame gen. Performance, frame gen, medium settings. I mean, dude, this should just cruise, no problem. Like, we should be getting a lot. The ghosting is wild because it's taken 20 something frames per second and trying to make 40. Other than that, like if you're looking at the legs and that weird ghosting doubling going on, everything else feels actually way better with frame gen. But we shouldn't need to be going down to like 500p upscaling and using like what and just getting, because I'm not even getting full sentences out. Like, this is kind of baffling. I have never had this experience with FSR. It's normally so palpable how much better it is. It's just so, it's like magic. Where right now it's not feeling like magic. The frame gen did, that literally doubled the frame rate. It is introducing some odd things going on because it's trying to take, you know, high 20s, low 30s and turn it into like mid 40s. But this is crazy because we can just go get rid of FSR, go back to TAA, native, medium, and keep that frame gen on. And we're getting, okay, 30 to 35. So we're definitely not getting as many, but man, it was only getting like 42-ish frames per second. So we're talking 10 frames per second max using FSR 3.1. Really feels like it should be a lot more than that when we're using performance. Okay, so medium is just too much. So we're gonna keep everything at low. We'll try TAA again just to get a baseline here at full resolution. This is with using the frame gen. So this is honestly pretty sick. This is playing great. Even outside in the open world, high 40s, sometimes into the 50s, looking pretty phenomenal. But if we really wanted to push things, and I would hope that this would help us get closer to 60 frames per second using frame gen, FSR 3.1, and going all the way to performance. We should be seeing a big difference here, like that. 79, 80, this is what I'm talking about. So it really didn't like medium. Medium, probably like the lighting and a couple other effects are just destroying it. So just keeping in low, and I'm sure you could go in there and tweak a couple things like textures could get bumped up to medium or high, and it wouldn't affect things that bad. But this is more what I was expecting. 60s into the 80s outside. Now we're talking. This looks great. This is what I was expecting the ROG Ally X to be like. This is just battery mode on turbo, but man, 80, 90. We just hit 90 frames per second, my friends, is what we're talking about. That was very strange. So even just jumping up to medium settings is really introducing a lot of probably stress on the GPU, and maybe something else is on the CPU, bottlenecking something where it just could not handle. But thankfully, this game looks so good at low settings. I never feel the need, especially on these smaller screens, to like jump the settings way up. God of War and God of War Ragnarok both look incredible at low setting. And then just for fun, ultra performance, low settings. Let's see, can we break 100 frames per second? It's not looking like it. 80, 95, 104, meow, meow, meow. Okay, but then it jumped to 50. So it's kind of all over the place, but still, dang guys, dang. I'm actually impressed on ultra performance, how good it's looking. Old FSR Ultra Performance was like unusable, so bad. 3.1 FSR Ultra Performance, not too shabby. I'd even say usable. However, it was playing so good at performance, I don't see the need to jump to ultra performance. But it's good to know on some other titles, once they start introducing FSR 3 to everything, all the games, that'll be really nice. Just to at least have the option to hopefully boost games over to the point that is usable. One last thing. Oh no, that's not what I meant to do. I just want to take frame gen off. Still the lowest, ultra performance. Let's just see what we're actually getting without any fake frames being introduced. And it surprisingly was almost locking in there at 60, but it does keep dipping into the 40s. But it's a pretty solid 40 to mid 60 frames per second. So if you hate frame gen, and I know some of you do, you don't have to use it. You can almost get a 60 frames per second experience on God of War Ragnarok on the ROG Ally X without any help from that fake frame gen baloney. Though, to be truthful, I like it. And especially on adventure RPG games like this, I have no issues with it. It just makes it look way better, in my opinion. But there we have it, folks. The ROG Ally X, again, just dominating. Gameplay incredible. Some funkiness there in the beginning, but then see this? Ugh, Windows just showing its horribleness again, and their software not being compatible with one another, just introducing these weird glitches where it just keeps saying that the controller is attacked. And it's great, thanks. And it'll just keep popping up, which is annoying. I will see you. Ooh, wait, first, guys, we are on the march to 10,000 subscribers. We are dangerously close. Having recently passed 7,000 subscribers, we're getting so close to summiting this first mountain peak together. And I'm very excited about it. So if you like this video and you want more, make sure to subscribe. Also leave a comment, hit the thumbs up, and all the good stuff. And I will see you in the next one.